And welcome back to the player rating show for Chelsea's 2-1 win against Newcastle United this past weekend. Chelsea now in 5th place with all things said and done. And oh me, oh my, it's good to be a Chelsea fan at the moment. It always is. Not always, but you know what I'm saying. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, it's 10 o'clock. As always, please do like the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification to be notified of any future content on the channel. And there's plenty of content to come with, of course, the return of solo watch-alongs. I don't know how much more I'm going to say this. But again, if you haven't heard, if you didn't know, solo watch-alongs are back. We're playing Newcastle next. And then, of course, Manchester United on Sunday. Erik ten Hag has been sacked as Manchester United manager. Ruud van Nistelrooy is likely to be the man to take over as interim coach or interim manager for that game at the very least. And it's just our luck. It's just our luck. And of course, when you're looking at the games that we've been playing lately, of course, we lost against Liverpool. But before then, we were on a stellar run of games, a stellar run of form. We lost to Manchester City at the start of the season, but found our form really, really well. Of course, next, we've got a Carabao Cup game before yet another big, big game in the Premier League. Everything's looking great at the moment. And if we can continue to build momentum and maybe even get a win against Manchester United and Arsenal as well would be absolutely fantastic. But again, going back to the game against Newcastle yesterday, as of the time recording this, we will get into the ratings. And of course, suffice it to say, we did, you know, we saw some big changes. We saw some big inclusions. We saw some rather big exclusions from this side, no less, down that left-hand side for the most part. In fact, pretty much the entirety, if you think about it. Lavia on that left-hand side, Gusto on that left-hand side, and Neto on that left-hand side all played their parts. And just as a whole, it really was a very... I'd say a hard-fought win. It was ours to win in the scheme of things because Newcastle never really did show up. Their goal, it was completely avoidable. Rather out of the blue. Excuse the, you know, no pun intended. But it was one of those goals where we found ourselves in a bit of a sticky situation needlessly, and I would argue, and I have argued, that I do think Reece James should be doing better. Obviously, he started. This isn't exactly how it started. It started, actually, I can probably change them around like this. So it actually wasn't all the way down the left-hand side. We saw James starting on the left back for this game. And I have looked back before we get into the numbers. But I have looked back, and it was James who didn't call the man on for Colwill to realise that Alexander Isak is running behind him. Of course, it's down to Colwill as one of the centre men to check his six, as they say. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. And I think the whole back four just were made to look like a bunch of idiots, sadly. It is what it is. It's a goal that Chelsea are sort of prone to conceding. Is ones, you know, it's that quintessential, it's that typical Chelsea goal that gets conceded in pretty much every game at this point. That's, I think, one of our remaining points that needs to be worked on. But anyway, Sanchez, I would argue, was a, you know, shithousery, I suppose, towards the end in order to get his yellow card. Chelsea have been fined £75,000 because we had 6 players booked in this game. But anyway, I keep losing track. I am gonna go with, that's rather big. I'm gonna go with a 7 for Sanchez. I don't know. That might seem a bit high. I think a 7. I don't think he was to blame for that. Do you know what? I don't know. I think a 6.5 might be harsh. But again, with these ratings, I just don't want them to be too high. Like I said, I want to keep the high numbers for special occasions. And of course, Palmer has had a 10 already this season. A game after me saying that I didn't want to give 10s out left, right, and centre, but I think that was pretty much worth it, the game that he scored 4 goals. I'm going to give him a 6.5. Up next, we have Malo Gusto. And as I was saying, I think that he's had a pretty decent game. Came off after the 78th minute. I think he did well. More so because he started on the right, which he's more versed in. He's well versed in. I'm going to give him a 7 for this game. Certainly, it still doesn't seem necessarily like we're getting the Gusto of old, of like last season. It does seem as though something's, I don't know what it is. It's just not hitting as it was. Maybe he's plateaued a little bit. Maybe he's struggling to excel in certain places that he was more so than not last season. Rest assured, we know we've got a good player in Malo Gusto, so I'm not worried. Thought he had a good game though. Either way, for their goal, he was the front man trying to block. Could he have done better to stop the cross coming off? I don't think so. It was so fast paced in the build up for that out of nowhere. It was more so for Fana, Cole and James that I would blame for that if you can. But yeah, it is what it is. A 6, I think, for Wesley Fofana. I think, and this isn't just based on this game, which I think is maybe a partially a little bit unfair. But my reasoning for that is a totally and completely unnecessary yellow card in the build-up, or to him nearly ending his own career. I think a lot of people in the moment were very, very worried that his career was over. Last season, out for the entirety. He's already got his knee taped up. He's lunging in like he was. We know he's reckless to begin with. Some late challenges we've seen from time to time, more often than not. And he is just so prone to a yellow card these days. It just was terrible, terrible defending from start to finish from him. Obviously got the block off and Sanchez did the rest. But I just think purely down to how poor the tackle was and getting a yellow card for it in the process. But also nearly absolutely ruining his leg that was already taped up. I just think he just worries me so much whenever he is defending or on the ball in the first place. He's such a scary geezer to watch. He really is. I like him. Don't get me wrong. I'm still unsure on this in this partnership between Fofana and Colwill, just purely because, again, both of them very, very, very reactionary. Very, I know it's coming from me right now as I'm saying all this. You're like, fucking pot kettle. They just put a bit of fear in me where these guys just normally wouldn't. These guys, and even James does it to me a little bit. But for the most part, all of this lot, front lot, attacking lot, I'm fine with. I'm happy with. I'm liking what I'm seeing. And obviously midfield as well. Defensively is where it's still just so shaky, and I'm just so nervous whenever we're in defense. Obviously a lot better than we were in previous weeks, previous seasons. But at the same time, we're so leaky, we're so rash, we're so clumsy, I think is the ultimate word you can use for our defense, especially Tweedledum and Tweedledee in the back two, is that it's just so clumsy. Can't deny Colwill is absolutely a wizard with his forward passes, but at the same time just puts the fear of God in me whenever either of them are actually trying to defend. Because with Fofana, it's either he's going to hurt himself or get booked. With Colwill, he's either going to get sent off or, risk giving away a penalty like we saw with who was it? I think maybe it was Almiron. Was it Tonali? Someone when they were running through on the edge of the box. It wasn't obviously in the box, but it was such a rash challenge, absolutely unnecessary, and really, really, really fortunate to get away with that one. Elsewhere, I think, honestly, besides the mistake of, you could argue it, we didn't see whether or not James was actually calling a man on there. Colwill didn't turn to check the man that was coming in behind him in Alexander Isak. But apart from that, I'm very, very happy with how James has been playing. I'm very happy with how he performed in this game. Besides that, and he's shown some versatility, which we knew he had, but to come back from the injuries that he's had and to showcase that, wow, he can do it on both sides. Obviously, James at left back isn't something you always see, rarely do, but when you do, it's nice to know that he can. And Gusto, who, again, for what you see here is that Gusto isn't necessarily 100% trusted at left back. I wouldn't say that's the way. It might be a bit harsh to say that. Like, I'm using the wrong terminology there. It's not that he's not trusted. It's just James is more trusted at left back, and Gusto, who rightfully so should be in this starting 11 more often than not. It's a bit of an Nkunku situation there. I think it's a good way to include him in the side when Cucurella is not playing, is what I'm trying to say. Moving on into midfield, and I just think Caicedo is continuing to be the real deal. There really isn't too much to say other than, wow, he's just such a joy to watch. And I just think head and shoulders above the rest in many ways, apart from, you know, this geezer here. He's just so good in midfield, isn't he? He's just so good. Commands the play, holds up the play. It's just, there really isn't much he can't do in his position. And for all the worries, for all the concerns with his, whether that be disciplinary issues, whether that be living up to the price tag, which he never will do, I don't think, unless he wins the Ballon d'Or, which Rodri's winning that. So maybe it's possible, because if he can win the fucking Ballon d'Or, I think most players can. And that's not saying he's shite. I'm just saying that the level of you know, football these days, if Rodri can win the Ballon d'Or, you've just got to have a really good season these days in order to have a chance at winning it. I mean, what was it? Palmer in the top 10 should have been way closer to the top. Anyway, I'm just really impressed with Caicedo. Really impressed. A lot of issues I was stressed with, as I said, more so than not the disciplinary issues. But if you look past that, you've got an all-rounder. You've got an absolute star of a midfielder in Moises Caicedo. And likewise, his counterpart here, to his left, Romeo Lavia, I'm knocking between a 7.5 and an 8. A 7.5 and an 8. And I think it's harsh to put 8.5 and then 7.5 because they were both so good today. I do think I'm going to give him a 7.5 though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is that harsh? Is that unnecessary? I think I could have given him an 8. I will admit that. But I'm going to give him a 7.5. An assist for the Palmer goal. And it was, you know, mostly Palmer that did the job for that, to be fair. But the build-up play was good in order to get the ball to Palmer as quickly as he did. Again, I think the main thing you can take from a player like Romeo Lavia is, again, much like Wesley Fofana, and this is a positive that I'm about to say here, because I only had bad things to say about Wesley Fofana a second ago, is that Romeo Lavia was out for a long time as well. And the fact that he can come into the squad and do as well as he's doing, whether that's pre-season or now. Pre-season, one of the best pre-seasons you'll see from a lot of players. It's putting Enzo Fernandez's position in real jeopardy. Because I am someone who is really not impressed necessarily on a regular basis with Enzo Fernandez. He has his moments. I just think I enjoy watching Lavia far more. I trust in Lavia far more. He's way better to watch and a far more all-round player to me than Enzo has been so far. That's not to say that he won't be in the future, and even the near future, really. I just think Lavia is a far more reliable player. That said, did get booked, wasn't necessary again, but at the same time, these things happen. Caicedo, heavily booked all the time. He avoided one. Lavia, it's not something that he's known for as much as a Caicedo, so it's not really that much of a concern. Moving forward, and it's hard. It is hard to, because Caicedo was very good, wasn't he? He was very, very good. However, I don't want to keep doing this in what seems to be a biased way, because it was one of those games again where Cole Palmer, very quiet for Cole Palmer, but just like that, can just open the game completely and just make one of the best passes you've ever seen as a through ball. Neto has something, quite a lot to do still in order to get past his man, because there's pace on the ball and there's a potential coming together there. The player could have absolutely taken him out, but he got past his man, crossed it in, Jackson there to put it away. I again, much like, I can't remember who I was talking about with that, but there's other bits in their game. Consistency is a lot to do with the ratings as well. I think it might be harsh on Caicedo, but for me, I mean, the goal alone, to just be like, I'm bored. I'm bored of this being 1-1. I'm going to come steaming out the gates and just put it in the back of the net, and that's that. The assist and the goal, for me, absolutely fantastic. Other aspects of the game, couldn't really criticize, to be honest with you. I'm sure he might have had a bit of a stinker here and there in parts, or he wasn't involved in certain parts, but I couldn't give a fuck. The guy wins games. That's all we want in a player. I haven't liked a player as much as I do him since Eden Hazard, or relied on a player for happiness as much as I do Cole Palmer, as I would Drogba, Diego Costa, or Eden Hazard. These kinds of players. This guy is just so good. It is outrageous. There's not much else to say. There really isn't much else to say. Before we continue on to the other ones, please do like the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification to be notified of any future content on the channel as we move into the final three. I will just, in no particular order, these aren't their ratings, of course, I'm going to just put them out so that they're ready to go. If people have fast forwarded to the end here and they'll click on here, they'll be like, fucking 9s for all rounds. No. I'm immediately going to go with a 6.5 for Madueke. Didn't have a terrible game. I know that rating might seem really low, but it's again, 5 for me is it's average. It's not, in the scheme of things, obviously, if you're getting a 5, you've had a stinker. But I want that score to be just bang average. 6.5 is decent. It's decent. It's not an amazing performance, but it's okay. It's nothing to be like, he had a shit game. In the scheme of things with the other players on the pitch, he had a bit of a stinker because he didn't live up to the standard of Pedro Neto, who just absolutely had a blinder today. And I'm gonna give Neto an 8.5 because I think you have to also bear in mind the factor that he's come in for a Jadon Sancho that, for whatever reason, was dropped, and he's come in, taken the position by the scruff of the neck, and thought, I've got a chance here to really state a claim for myself. And he's done fucking amazing. He was so good today, or in that game, that there really aren't many criticisms. He got booked as well, one of many, including Enzo Maresca. So I just think for this season as well, in a season where, you know, we've signed a few players here and there, he is absolutely, unless I'm missing someone glaringly obvious, he was one of the players, if not the player, Jadon Sancho as well, obviously, funnily enough, the same position. Was always most excited to watch Pedro Neto play for Chelsea, and he's just doing well. He's just doing really well. Consistency, might have a few dips here and there, but overall, I'm really impressed with him. I'm really, really impressed. Lastly, and honourable mentions, I guess, Mikhail Mudryk could have scored. Probably should have scored with that pass from like 8 yards out, I want to say. I don't know what happened. He just shot it at the only place he wasn't supposed to, and that was right at the keeper. Made it so easy for Nick Pope. And it could have just... I remember Enzo scoring a goal against Crystal Palace. Against the run of play, 90-something minute, and Enzo just standing there like Mudryk was. And again, he didn't have many players around him, Fernandes, but Mudryk in this one, if he just took his time or had a bit of patience, or more so, what's the word, composure, he could have netted that easily. He could have netted that easily. I mean, we know he's got a bit of a punch on him in terms of power. I think he could have done a lot better. Enzo, again, not long on the pitch, but yeah. Cucurella, again, not long on the pitch. And Christopher Nkunku booked unnecessarily, but to the point where it wasn't a booking. So I'm not angry at him. Luckily, he didn't get sent off, because I think he did something a few seconds later, like a foul that, or kicked the ball away or something, and he was lucky not to get sent off. But again, I just think as we finish on this man, Nicholas Jackson, it's hard to keep up with consistency, that Jackson's just in the right place at the right time. And I know Nkunku's our top scorer in all competitions, I think, still. It's hard to find consistency in the Premier League. I know he doesn't play, so we can't find that consistency. But someone who does play and does score consistently is Nicholas Jackson. And he's just a joy to watch a lot of the time, you know. I'd say my only criticism of him is sometimes when he's on his one-on-ones in previous games, he fluffs his lines or whatever. But he's just a proper Chelsea player, isn't he? He's proper Chelsea. And I absolutely love watching him play. And when he scores, it always brings a smile to my face, as it should you, if you're backing him, as many people don't. I think it's harsh to suggest, as people do, that he isn't a good Premier League striker. He is phenomenal. He is in his second season, you know, he's doing absolutely fantastic. 6 goals, 3 assists in 9 starts and 9 matches in general. 6 goals in 9 matches in the Premier League so far is fantastic numbers. It's really good. He's got a goal and an assist in every single game by that number. 6 goals, 3 assists in 9 games. What more do you want? What more do you want? And people will argue, maybe, I don't know if anyone said it, but like, it's just a tap-in. He has to be there. He has to be there. And he is, consistently. So I don't know what it's going to take Jackson to do to get the respect he deserves, but it is what it is. Sanchez with a 6.5. Might be harsh. I don't know. Gusto with a 7. Fofana 6. 6.5 for Colwill. 7.5 for James. 8.5 for Caicedo. 7.5 for Lavia. 9 for Palmer, the man of the match. It's debatable, but that's my opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure you will. 6.5 for Madueke. 8.5 for Neto and Jackson. And with that said, again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Probably not for the last time, but solo watch-alongs are back, baby! Please do tune in for the game on Wednesday. Again, it will be on my own, as will every other game for the rest of the season. And yeah, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification to be notified of any future content on the channel. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it's 10 o'clock. Thank you for watching. My name is Harry, up the Chelsea, and peace.